look at my Pokemon card collection in my closet. Well, that's what I've been doing in the pandemic. I've been spending all my money on Pokemon cards. It's awful. All right, so today I'm going to show you, I guess, just basically my process of how I get to a finished piece. Here's an example of a finished piece. All right. So now what I do a lot of times, since I'm usually biking through the city or usually walking through the city, I have my iPhone or my iPad or just any kind of, like an old Android I'll kind of keep around me too, just to go and take pictures. And I do it really fast, but I also try to think about how I'm going to use what I'm interested in, like the subject I'm interested in. So definitely take a lot of pictures. Like I have literally a folder of just pictures of me just walking around Philly and just snapping as much stuff as I can. Don't be afraid to reference. Like a lot of people think referencing is like cheating or it's unprofessional or it's like a crutch. Like you're literally capturing your subject. Like this is part of my process. This is like my sketching basically. Like if I can, here, let me get some more real quick. Boom, references. Print them out, but literally just shots of Philly from like my phones. And like, this is sketching right here. Like this is, instead of, I don't like to really like sit on site and sketch because it's kind of distracting. There's like a lot of stuff usually happening. For me, it's just a lot easier just to take a quick picture and then keep it moving. But also when you're out there taking pictures, think about the kind of compositions that you like. Think about what you're going to use this for later. Like here's a great example of just like, this is a me, like, this is it. Like, this is like, this is done. Like all I have to do is just draw that, this is it, it's got all the phone lines I need. It's got the crazy dynamic shots that I like. So don't just go up and just snap a photo and then keep it moving. Like really get on your knees and like look up and just take as many crazy shots and angles as you can, because a lot of times you can just nail it in here and like all you have to do is just literally just draw from this. But today I will show you how to not, you also want to, you can either do the approach of doing a one-to-one drawing based off your reference, or you can make it a little bit fun and make it a little challenging and move things around by studying from your reference, right? So let me get a clean piece of paper.
Derick, Mike made a comment. He's saying all the photo references that you have are black and white, and yeah, we assume that's intentional. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I like to keep everything black and white because if it's all in color, it's very distracting for me personally. A lot of my work is based with black and white high contrast ink, especially with this stuff, because like I said, they aren't landscapes. I really try not to think of them as landscapes. I think of them more as like an illustration. So the more, when I shoot in black and white, it just simplifies a lot for me that I can then take this and take the information that's there and then kind of build on it from there. But when it's in color, you can take a really awesome shot. And if it's in color, it's like the right time of day. It's just like, man, this is just a really cool photo. Like, I don't want to do anything with it. Like, but this is just like the basis of it. Like, this is just like the building blocks to get to what I want. So
the fundamentals.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go with this guy because it's very simple. We only have like an hour today. And hopefully we can get, something inked. But I'll basically show you how to take your reference and not necessarily be a slave to it. Unless you really, if you really, really, really nail your reference shot and you want to do a one-to-one, there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to make things hard for myself because it's fun. So I deal with a lot of perspective, and perspective is a tricky subject. It's kind of crazy. It can get to the point where you have rulers and T-squares, and all that insanity. I kind of take a more intuitive approach to it, and I'll show you how I kind of tackle that. So we have the main shot, which is this really cool backside of like a warehouse. We have this really cool, like, I don't even know what kind of fence this is, but it is really, I don't know, it's just doing it for me. It's like wooded panels, and then there's like this cool like door. I don't know, man, it's South Philly is all you can, it's just South Philly as you can get. So I'm gonna take the elements that I really enjoy from this, and I do a lot of reductive work when I do buildings. I don't want to recreate all of this because I don't know, it's just not as fun. So this is the main point of focus that I want. I'm going to just break this down really quickly. This is literally just a square. If you turn this on its side, let me know if you guys can see all this pretty good. Is it coming in clear?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. This is the front side of this. We're going to make this a square. So you turn this around at any angle, it's going to be a square. Pretty simple. We have one little window here, and we can use this window for a lot of things, right? Like we can use this window to measure out how wide this building is. Right now, let's just like, I kind of will like mark on my reference shot. And if we just measure with our fingers, like this is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this building total is about 6 windows long. And then even from here, if you want to do a measurement of like how tall this building is by using this guy, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So wow, 6 by 6. Cool. That's great when it comes out even, man, because you don't have to do any math. Cool. So then I'll just break down what I get visually out of this. Like we can't see the bottom side of this building, and that's totally fine. That's when you can just kind of make it up. But we're really, even like the angle that I'm actually going to use, you're not going to see this because you have this awesome wood structure thing in front of it. So for the parts that we do see, I like to cut my buildings in half. And then we already know that this building is about 3 windows tall. 3 windows tall by about 6 windows wide. And you're doing this mostly because you don't want this out the entire time while you're working, because you're going to make a mark on your piece, and then you're going to look at the piece. You want to just get all this information down so you can really play with it. So all right, so let me know if I'm moving really fast too. I drank some coffee and it is just kicked in.
It's perfect speed.
Just kicked in. All right. So since we can't see the side of this guy, I'm just going to use the information that I'm getting from this building here, right? So what I'm also going to do is these windows are completely different sizes. So what I'm going to kind of do is just make it up, right? I'm going to say that this window, since it's a longer rectangle form, is about one of these windows and a half, right? And so if we turn it on its side, like right here, say this is the front of the building, and we have that one window right there, we can just insert using this information here over here. And that way we're making up, I like to make up a lot of these buildings by using what I have. Because, you know, unless it's a commission that's specific, like somebody wants their house drawn, this is where you can kind of have fun, and you can really just kind of capture like the essence of Philly or whatever city that you live in that you want to kind of do this kind of work with. All right. So I want this piece to basically be on its, I'm kind of skipping ahead. All right, so then let's break down this fence real quick. This fence in front of this building is literally the exact same width, right? But we have 4 wooden panels that we can kind of play with. So let's just break them down real quick. And this is a trick that you can do in perspective a lot to kind of measure things. So you have your form. This is going to be a rectangle. What we're going to do is called the X method. We're going to connect these two corners together with an X and this one right here to find the middle point. Once you have that middle point, you're just going to make the X again right here. And one more time. And that way you now have 4 equidistant pieces in this rectangle. Boom. Perspective 101. And so over here, we have 2 cool doors and we have a cool brick wall. You can break down that brick wall if you really want. I'm probably going to stay away from it since today we're going to kind of moving fast. But if you look also back here, there's like a gap, right? There's a gap between this guy and this guy. And you can kind of see back here, the alleyway to behind this building has a little door. So you can kind of just put that in there too. And that's about at the halfway mark of this building, a little bit below it. So I'll just throw that in there just for more information so that I can have to kind of play with. And then pretty much from there, you know, you have this structure here, which is literally just like 2 big pieces of 4x4 going across up there. And then you'll notice that the doors here match up with these doors here. So you can kind of just do that right there. And this is basically just a map. I'm just breaking down what I'm seeing to then be able to kind of mess around with the perspective. Because like I really could and I really would just take this shot right here. This is just like a 1-point perspective shot. And I think it's gorgeous. You could literally just draw that from there, but I kind of want to show you guys how you can kind of play around with it a little bit. Right. So I'm going to make this sketch right here. Woo, you guys see that?
Yep.
All right, cool. So this essentially, I will make a square since I mostly work in about 9x12 to 8x8 inches. That's a nice comfortable zone for me. I can go up higher than that, but it's nice to kind of work with a square when you're starting in your sketch phase. So what you're going to do, since we're working in perspective, I like to make a grid. So I'll put down a couple lines that are equidistant in each one, and I'm eyeballing it. I'm doing like I said, I do a more intuitive approach. I don't really like to use rulers, especially when I'm sketching, because it's just, you're spending all your time making this like the straightest thing possible, and it's not needed for right now. So do some vertical lines, make sure they're pretty decently equidistant. Then we'll do some horizontals. We'll do a couple more. Essentially just turning this into grid paper. You can actually use grid paper too if you have some, but that's what we're doing right now. Right. So I have a grid. And now if you're just looking at this and you're seeing this guy, can you already kind of start to see a composition kind of unfolding, right? Like you can kind of see where like, oh, if I just wanted to do a 1-point perspective real quick, boom. I just wanted to do this piece, literally, look at that. Work's already halfway done for you because you have this grid and you can kind of use it to lock in your composition. But we're going to do a little 2-point. Well, this will technically be a 2-point. So, because I like this composition right here a lot. So from that, I'm going to find the midway point in our, well, actually, you can also cut this into thirds too. A lot of people will kind of do that. That's like a composition rule. You want like, rule of thirds. And where you'll put your horizon a lot of the time is either like a little bit above this third line or a little bit below. I personally find myself a lot of times just attaching my horizon line right to this line. Just easier because it always gives me enough space up here. And if you're familiar with my work, you know that my sky is very clear. So that's where like most of the color is going to go, and that's where all the power lines are going to go. So I like to leave that spot nice and open. All right, so got this grid going. From here, I already kind of know that I want this building in a 2-point perspective, because I did a little sketch right here. So what you'll do is you'll make a vanishing point somewhere off over here. I kind of like to keep this one as close to the plane, as close to the picture plane, like this little square we made, as possible. And I'll start just making some lines. I'll do them very lightly. And I always kind of keep them, once again, equal distance. It's just a little bit easier just to be able to follow if these guys are like kind of equally spaced for now. And then, so this is our first vanishing point right here. And then, so I'm running out of paper here, but essentially you want your other vanishing point, since this is in 2-point, you want that one at least 2. So this is the center line, sorry. So this will be your center point of the picture plane. You want your next vanishing point that's going to be this way to be twice this amount. So boom, boom, and I'm off paper, and I'm just going to wing it. You know, like I said, I do everything kind of intuitively, but basically, essentially, you're just making some lines go really far off. Right. So look at that. You see where, like, look at all this perspective lines we have right now. And if you just kind of look at this, you can kind of start visualizing where this basic shape of a square is just it can go anywhere. You know, it can be like right here, it can be like right there, it can be anywhere in this whole composition we got going on here. All right, so since I got this guy going, also too, another good trick, since this can get visually kind of messy, use color pencils. Use one color for one vanishing point, one color for another vanishing point, and you'll know where everything's kind of going. But I've done this like a jillion times, so I kind of can see where I'm at. But so now we're going to break this guy down into a composition that I personally want. So I kind of will attach my drawings onto some of these lines I've made as just like a starter point, you know, since the work's kind of already done for me. And now we have a fence right here. This fence looks like it's flush with this building, but like we've all been in backyards, it's not. So in most South Philly backyards are like, like 4 by 4 foot. So they're really tiny. This is when you can I like to just kind of fudge things around with my measurements. Nothing has to be precise. We're not architects here. You know, this is where you kind of just play with it until you've found like a happy spot with it, if that kind of makes sense. So I'm just going to place my main building here for now. And I know that I want this fence in here, and I know that I want some of this sidewalk, because the sidewalk is fun. It's just a bunch of squares with cracks in it. I mean, that's for Derick personally, that's pretty fun to draw. So got my building here, and then I'm gonna bring the fence down about right there. But if you really want to, so your building's here, you can kind of make some lines, right? And you can make your own like kind of square footage. Like there's a bunch of books that will teach you to make, like, this would represent a foot, right? And so if you want this fence to be 4 feet away from this building, you can do that. I kind of will just lay it down, and then I'll kind of sketch it in, and just to kind of see where I'm at. And if I like where it's placed, then I'm like, all right, I'm pretty happy. But then you can make like a little adjustments, like, okay, I kind of want this to be a little bit bigger. Right. So this is where our fence is going to be. Main building back here. Boom. And we're just going to keep this guy going. Wicked. And now we got enough space for a little bit of the sidewalk. I personally would like a little bit more, but it's got a nice kind of cutoff point here. So main point of focus with this fence that I thought was cool with these 4 panels here. So I'm gonna kind of, you can do what's called projecting, right? So you know where your building is here, and you know that based off of our reference, it's literally like right in front of it, and it's about the same width. So what you can do is kind of go down here, make a new vanishing point, boom, boom, and you're projecting outwards from this building. See where my fence is now? It's like flush with this.
That's magical.
No, it's insane. Get as many perspective books as you can, because they all have something different. They all approach it with pretty much the same principles, but there's just so many little weird tricks. Like, you don't have to just stick to these 2 vanishing points that you put down. You can put as many in there as you want, as long as your horizon is the only thing that stays the same. You can't move your horizon. If you move your horizon around, all of this stuff changes. But right, so now that we have the measurement for where this guy's going, we know that there's a brick wall right here, right? Do we want to battle with the brick wall? I mean, if you're really into it, definitely can. I'm gonna just put it in for now, but I think we're not really gonna mess with that. And then, you know, we have this part of the fence stuff here. I'm actually, instead of the brick wall, I'm gonna move this stuff right here. And I'm gonna put it over here. And that's what you can do once you've broken down your reference. You can start to kind of take things away, or you can even have, I mean, you can have multiple references up and just take little pieces from here, take little pieces from that reference, and move everything around and kind of have fun with it. So, and I'm actually gonna repeat this pattern too, going this way. So let's break this down real quick. Let's make that into 4 equal parts. Boom, right? And since this gets cut off, we'll just cut this off here. Make another X. Boom. So now it's all equal. Now, things, as you can kind of see, these are all equal, but these guys that are closest to us are way wider than this one over here. And that's because the closer you get to your vanishing point, the smaller things get. The farther away, the wider they get. The X method just helps you keep all of that from getting too distorted. All right, so now we're gonna repeat this little pattern up here. And this is like I said, like, nothing has to be perfect right now. You're literally just sketching out your composition that you wanna turn into a finished piece. Right, we know that this guy lines up with that. And once again, we run into the dreaded brick wall, and we can just have it trail off right here. Cool. So
cool. Can you tell us again what the X does? Harriet was just wondering.
Oh yeah. So the X is just like, most of the shapes that you'll be playing with when you're in perspective are squares or rectangles. Say you have your main square right here, but you want another one right here, but you don't want to just, like, you know, fudge it in. But if you want this to be accurately spaced and as, you know, wide and tall as this one, you do the X method. So you find the middle, boom, and you're making these parallel lines so that now you want to make another square here. All you have to do is follow the parallel, and wherever they match, like, so, oh man, I'm not explaining this right. Or I'm not explaining this clearly. Sorry, I'm just like visually doing it. But so
I get it. I get it.
You get it, right? All right.
It's the parallel lines that tell you where to put the next square, so it's the same size.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Now you see these guys are equally spaced. And then you can just keep doing that. But you'll be using that a lot. Like if you're drawing windows on a building, you'll be using this method a lot. So much that it'll drive you kind of nuts. Especially if you're using a ruler, you'll just be like, ah, making X's all day. But all right, so back to this composition real quick. Well, let's do this building back here real quick. What other cues are we going to take? Let's see. Let's get that in there. So I like this weird strip. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's used for, but I like it. It's cool. It's black. Visually, it's just like appealing to me. Now, so we'll just draw that in there. Now we know that this building is 6 windows wide. And the way that you can get to that is, let's see, do the X method again, find the middle. And from here, you just keep breaking it down until you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to leave it 7 because I like the wideness of this. And then let's see. So we have 1 window here. I'll place that bad boy right there. And I'm going to make it 2 windows just because, like, no, why not? This is in the sketching phase. Why not? If it looks bad here, then you know when you're going to take it to the main work, you can leave it out. You can even put as many windows in there if you want, but for now, I'd like, since it's like the backside of what looks like an abandoned warehouse, I'm going to keep it like that. So for these windows, you'll want to break them down too. And these are very rough, fast sketches. I would honestly say if you have time, if you want to do more building style work, really sit there and break this down, because it'll help you when you have to come tackle the window. The window is actually a pretty intricate, insane piece of, I don't even know what you call it. It's crazy. Like if you really sit there and break down a window pane, you're like, wow, there's all of this that goes into this thing that I ignore all the time. So this is the basics of this window here. And it's literally just a bunch of lines. So cool. Now that we have that information, we're good to go. I'm going to keep this cool, wicked, weird paint job in there. That's wild. I don't know what it is, but it kind of gives it like this like smile almost. It's cool. All right. And then since we're seeing some of this side of the building, I'm going to use, once again, some cues from this side of the building. And we got about 3 windows there. I'm just going to do about 2. So since we have where these windows are, and a lot of times what you'll notice on windows on buildings, they're all in line with each other. So kind of keep that going. So since you have these lines where they're placed, you know they're going to go this way too. So you literally will just connect that, like so. And then we also wanted, since these windows here are vertically longer, they're about, I'm gonna just guess that it's like 1 of these and half of these. So it's like 1.5 this size. What you can do is kind of go down here. Boom. Now, we have like the other side of that. And then once again, do the X method. You can find out where the next window is going to go, like that. All right, so this is the basis of a general composition I'd use, right? Let's throw in some power lines. With the power lines, I project them from the building, like kind of in like a U shape. I want them to seem like they're literally about to fall. And if they're straight, that means they're like very new. There's no taut in them. But if they're kind of like swooping down, that means they've been around for a really long time. And I kind of like to emphasize that. I like my buildings to look very lived in, almost abandoned, damn near. And yeah. So I'm gonna, we also have this really cool rooftop thing over here. You can add that over here too. Play around. If you have some more references, like take some cool shots, throw some random weird shapes in there that you like. Play around with it, see how it looks visually. So right here, yeah, I have a lot of lines on the paper. You gotta do it though. You gotta scribble. You gotta scribble to find the gold. It's like digging. I call it fishing. So from here, we have a square composition. Today we have like a 8.5 by 11. It's kind of vertical. So this is a lot of empty space up here, and off to the sides that visually we're not getting anything from. So what you can do is just crop that. And essentially, you've got your piece, right? So that's what my sketch is going to be, like 8.5 by 11. There's all the empty space for my power lines. My color is going to go. Got some sidewalk, got some fence in there, and I got the main piece, the building. So that's how I get to kind of messing around from reference. I don't know. Hopefully that wasn't too hard to follow with. Yeah.
Derick, so with so many lines on the paper, someone has a question. How do you keep them sorted? How do you sort of keep them organized? And I know you did mention using colored pencils as a trick. Are there any other tricks?
You can really, I mean, if you're doing it by hand, the best way is having a bunch of, color pencils that are obviously, complementary. So you'll have red here and then blue here. For me, I've done it like this for just so long that I can just kind of see what I'm doing. Any other way to do it is if you're doing it digitally, you can have all your vanishing point lines, just always make sure they're just a different color and turn the opacity down a little bit so that you're not getting blown away by all this color coming at you, but you're still having lines that you can measure things with and attach your building work to.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, play around too. I mean, you can use different size pencils. You can use a bunch of softer lead for your vanishing point lines and then a harder lead for your sketch. Yeah. That makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. Mason has a question. He would love to hear a little bit more about working with fluid 2D elements like graffiti and street art on the buildings, I'm assuming, in your drawings.
Yeah. That is literally just, I make my own fonts. I'll either go Google a bunch of fonts, or I end up taking a lot of pictures of graffiti and I'll use that as references a lot. One day, if you have a day where you can just kind of sit there, play with the alphabet, kind of look at a couple of graffiti images and then try to make your own versions of those letters that you see and letters that you you have the alphabet. So just be like A, B, C, and then make a graffiti version of that A and that B and that C and that D and that E. And that'll help you kind of get in touch with that visual language that comes with graffiti. But a lot of it is literally just mess, boom. If you saw that on a building, you'd be like, whoa, that's cool. I don't know what it does, but it's cool, And especially I use a brush. So when I'm doing my graffiti, a lot of times I'll be like, okay, I'm going to start with a letter, but then the stuff in between is just going to be whatevs, and then I'll end with another letter. So, you kind of just make it messy because a graffiti is done really fast. Graffiti isn't clean unless it's like a commissioned wall. And I don't know, you don't really want to spend a lot of time drawing a commissioned wall, So think of, when you're doing graffiti on your buildings, think of it as some tagger kid who's 16 at night doing this in the middle of the night as fast as he possibly can and running. That's what I kind of put my head at.
That's awesome. That's such a good way to describe that. Also, somebody would love to see that projecting the fence out trick again. If we can review that really quickly, because I think that was a magical moment for a lot of us.
Totally. So with projecting things, almost out of lead. So say this was our building, right? right? We got our square that represents our building. These guys are all going to a horizon line. That's about right there. These guys are going to another horizon line. So you can either use this to project outward from where you want your fence, or where you'd want, like, say you wanted to add another building here. You're literally just projecting from an established vanishing point, right? But if this is off the paper, or like you've ran out of room and you can't really see this vanishing point, there's no reason why you can't just come in a little bit closer, like here, and do it as well. And if you do it even closer here, you're getting like a really projected viewpoint of that. And then you're just connecting it back to this already established vanishing point.
Okay, awesome. So it's just basically working with the vanishing point and projecting out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I hope that makes sense. Yes, it does.
Yeah. It takes a while to
Do
really.
the windows follow vanishing lines as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
okay.
So these ones that I've like established up here, you're gonna make your windows do the exact same thing. You wouldn't want to have like a different vanishing point for your windows. See how that's already like off? If I had like a different like a different vanishing point, just use the same vanishing point that is already established here for that kind of stuff. It's crazy. I know.
So sweet.
Thank you everyone for like bearing with perspective. It's very hard. It's very annoying, but once you literally get the basics down, like a lot of things become easier. I'm still learning. Like, I'm not a master at this at all.
Yes, you are.
No way. All right. So, hey, we got our. Let's see if we can get this thing pencil and inked, right? So we're gonna take this little sketch here. Got my big piece of paper here. Now, if you have a big space to work at, what you would literally do, what I used to do, is I'd have this is my drafting table. It's pretty big. So on this, I'd have my sheet of paper that I'm going to be drawing everything, and on the sides of that, I'd have two really big pieces of paper that I can have my vanishing points on. But today, since we're doing this vertically, I'm going to show you a method from comics that's kind of pretty neat. So when we're working, I thought I put that on silent. My bad, y'all. Hold up. Turn this off. Oh man, it's already 6:30.
It's 6:20. We got 10 more minutes, and then.
All right, we got 10 more minutes.
Yeah,
All right.
can do this.
Do this. So I usually go in about 1 inch each side just for framing purposes. Boom. All right, so make your grid. I'm sure like a prospective teacher, if they're watching this, they're going insane right now. They're like, just use a ruler. Just use a ruler. What is wrong with you? That's fun. All right, cool. So a quick trick you can kind of do, if you don't, like, if you have this piece of paper, like, so a lot of times in comics, each panel has its own perspective. So what you can do so that you don't have to always have a ruler or another giant piece of paper with you, break down this drone right here, break down each side. So let's say you make little measurement marks on each side of the panel. For this guy, I'm gonna have them all equally spaced about that amount. And then over here, you're gonna do the same thing, but you don't want these to be the same exact measurement. So find the middle point, and the middle point of that, middle point of that. And then you're just gonna make them a lot smaller on this side. So now you're just like connect the middle one first, and then you can find another point over here to connect. Another point over here to connect. Sorry, it's gonna be kind of crazy. Is that okay if I do that real quick?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Find another point over here to connect. Find another point over here to connect. All right, so that's one vanishing point. Then you'd go over here and do the exact same thing. And you're literally just connecting these lines that you've already kind of established. I wish I had a lot more time to kind of show you exactly, but this is just like to explain it a little bit more. But for this purpose, this is just to save you room so you don't always have to have these giant pieces of paper and these giant T-squares to make a perspective grid, like a 2-point perspective grid. So there's our 2-point right there. Look at that. Boom.
Amazing.
Friggin' done. Friggin' done. That's the hard part. All right. So we're gonna get this drawing going, and I'm just gonna, since we only got like 5 minutes, I'm just gonna bum rush this real quick. Project outward. We know that this is about 4 feet away. And that is also about the halfway point, right? That front fence is about half as tall as this building. So we'll find the half point of the building, project that drawn out. Boom. All right. We got our building kind of tucked back. All right. So this will be our first window here. Boom. Find that X. Perspective lines that are going with that building, with that window. Then just attach the parallels. Boom. 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 Bam, yo. Then you don't want that many friggin' windows. Look at that. That's how you can do your window spacing without having to like kind of fudge it. Like if I just did that without doing all that measuring, these would totally be, crazy. They're a little off, but I'm gonna move this guy just a little bit right there because we got a little bit of space here, a little bit of space here. To the top of that guy. Apologies for the quickness once again, but I mean, this is actually kind of how fast I really work anyway. I have a bad back, so I can't just be like at my drafting table for 6 hours a day, unfortunately, anymore. But so those are those 2 2x4s. Boom, boom, boom. Now we got our sidewalk. And the sidewalk's cool, man, because it's just a bunch of squares. Look at that. It's all squares. Like that's like the funnest part. It's just like, yo, look at this kind of checkerboard pattern. It's cool. It's neat. Got that drawing going. Boom. Project these bad boys out there. And now let's see. And see, since we broke it down, you didn't have to look at your reference at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you played with it. Like you literally took this and you just shifted it. And you got that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, I'm sorry once again that we had to do this like in an hour, but
don't worry. I mean, this means that we really need a whole class.
Yeah. Down, do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I get to the pencil phase of one of my drawings. Basically, that's how I approach that.
That's amazing. It's
Boom.
beautiful.
Nice.
I'm just gonna, in the last couple of minutes that we have, share the rest of your book. And meanwhile, I'll keep the chat to the side. And one question is, where do we buy your work? It's a very good question.
Ooh. You can go to Derick Jones, or oh my God, what's my website, man? I think it's derickjonesart.com. Or go follow me on Instagram. There it is.
What's your handle?
It's Skuds Inc. SKUDSINK.
SKUDSINK.
Yep.
So that's your Instagram handle.
And that's got my shop link. There's some more books left over. We only got about like 15 left. And a couple prints, a couple originals up right now. We're actually going to start putting some t-shirts up in about a week. So
fun.
Yeah.
What image does the t-shirt have?
It's got a old Mifflin Street one that was pretty. A lot of people bought the prints of that like a while ago, so I stopped making prints of it. But I'm going to put it on a shirt finally. I don't know if I have it. Do I have it laying around here? Don't. Wait.
I love the red skies.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, me too.
They're the best.
That's where I want to be all the time, but then I feel like it's a little too apocalyptic. So I try to ring it, you know. But yeah. These are fun. That's Skookle. That's like the Skookle out in the future. Some of these are also kind of like done with like a post-apocalyptic mindset as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you get the molted sky?
Like the dots and everything in the sky.
I'm imagining, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Basically, I do a wash with watercolor first, and then I make that same wash again, but I use a old toothbrush. I dip it in the wash and then just flick it onto the paper.
Okay. And do you do the inking first and then the watercolor, or the watercolor first?
I do the inking first. But if you use, like I use, it's India ink, and that's water resistant. So if you do that first, you can actually do the watercolor first if you want. Just use India ink because then it won't react to the wetness of the paper.
Makes sense. Cool. And is there a place where we could learn a little bit more about the comics perspective trick?
Oh yeah. I have like the file that I can send around to people of a breakdown of it.
Awesome. If you send it to me, I'll send it to everybody on the webinar.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you guys that.
How do you protect the white shapes when splattering the paint?
You can either use, I'll just put down like another piece of paper over top of it, like my building, like the main parts of the image that I don't want that splatter on. I'll do that. Sometimes I'll cut out like just the sky part on another piece of paper and put that over top of it and do the flicks as well. I haven't tried masking fluid, but I heard that's another way to do it. Holy shit, my teeth look really white. Nice. Yo, I've been worried about that. I've been too much coffee, and I'm like,
I know, it can get worrisome. Yes, your teeth are shining. They're great.
Hey, look at them. Artwork, huh? Look at these teeth. Anyway,
I know, those are art. Awesome. So yeah, so some folks are saying we should have another inking and watercoloring session.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, to be continued, hopefully, whenever you're available.
Yeah, thank you for letting this happen, people. This is awesome.
This was so much fun, and seeing you at work is just so inspiring. You truly are a master of this, and I think everyone is in agreement. And thank you so much, Derick, for your time and for your generosity and explaining all of this to us. This was really cool.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Stay tuned. I'll be in touch with any follow-up materials that Derick sends my way. And do join us again this Thursday for another webinar. We're actually doing a tour of the exhibition at the Fabric Arts Museum. So do join us for that. Otherwise, everyone stay safe. Have a great night. And Derick,
I
thank
was
you
like-
again. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Derick.
Thanks,
Hi,
y'all.
Derek.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Nice
you.
seeing y'all.
I'll talk to you, Derick.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
You did a great job.
Oh, thank you for coming, Hal.
It was really nice.
Some folks are asking about donating, so here is a link if you wanted to donate for the for being part of the webinar. I don't know.
Already donated.
I've gotten.
You did?
Yeah, I put a 20 in.
Okay.
That's great.
did too.
All right. Thank you so much for giving. And Hal, nice to see you.
Yeah, I will be talking. I'll see you next week sometime.
Okay, great. All right. Take care.
See, he did that